10 minutes. That's all I want from you today. Not a gym transformation, not a supplement stack, not a punishing workout routine you'll quit by Thursday. Just 10 minutes a day of one specific movement that may do more for your brain than most people realize. Because if you've been hearing the phrase that one daily move can slash dementia risk by as much as 76%, you need to understand two things. First, the number is real enough to get your attention. And second, the reason behind it is even more important than the number itself. Because once you understand what this movement is actually doing inside the brain, this stops sounding like generic health advice and starts sounding like basic maintenance for the organ you cannot afford to lose. I'm Dr. Marcus Vance, and today I want to walk you through exactly why this works, what the evidence really says, where people exaggerate it, and why something as simple as 10 minutes a day can become one of the highest return habits for long-term brain protection. Let's start with the part most people never think about. Your brain is not just thinking. Your brain is constantly cleaning. Every day your brain produces metabolic waste, proteins, inflammatory byproducts, cellular debris, and if those materials are not cleared efficiently over time, they begin to accumulate in ways that are deeply associated with cognitive decline, neuroinflammation, and in some cases, dementia-related pathology. One of the most important discoveries in neuroscience over the last decade is that the brain has a waste clearance network, often referred to as the glymphatic system. It is most active during deep sleep, and it helps move waste products out of brain tissue. Now here is where movement enters the story. Walking does not just burn calories. It changes circulation. It changes vascular rhythm. It changes oxygen delivery. It changes sleep quality later that night. And those effects matter because a brain with better blood flow, better metabolic regulation, and better sleep is a brain that is better positioned to clear waste and resist degeneration. So when I say movement protects the brain, I do not mean that in the vague, motivational poster sense. I mean it biologically. I mean it at the level of blood vessels, inflammatory signals, insulin sensitivity, neurotrophic factors, and the structures in the brain that determine whether your memory holds up or starts slipping. And if this is your first time hearing me, let me make something clear right away. We do not do hype here. We do not take an observational number, strip away the context, and pretend it is a guaranteed outcome for every human being on Earth. We do not confuse possibility with certainty. But we also do not ignore strong evidence just because it is simple, unglamorous, and impossible to patent. That matters here because the headline number people love to repeat comes from observational fitness data, which means it shows a strong association, not absolute proof of cause and effect. The more conservative message is still powerful. People who maintain or improve fitness over time have substantially lower dementia risk, and global guidance consistently recognizes physical activity as one of the most important modifiable factors in risk reduction. That is the adult version of this conversation. Now let me make it practical. A while back, I saw a patient I'll call Margaret. She was in her early 70s, and her daughter brought her in because something had changed. Not dramatically, not the kind of thing that looks obvious in a movie, but enough to worry the people closest to her. She was repeating stories more often, losing words mid-sentence, forgetting why she had walked into a room, misplacing everyday items and then becoming visibly frustrated by it. Her testing suggested mild cognitive impairment, not dementia, but not nothing either. The kind of middle ground where people are often told to keep an eye on it without anybody seriously addressing the daily behaviors that may influence where things go next. When I looked closer, her physical activity was almost zero. Most of her day was seated. Her sleep was poor. Her blood pressure was technically treated, but not especially well controlled across the full day. And nobody had ever explained to her what walking might actually do for her brain beyond, "It's healthy." That is a problem, because people do not change when you give them slogans. They change when they understand mechanism. So I explained it differently. I explained that the part of her brain most vulnerable to age-related memory decline, the hippocampus, is not some dead, static structure waiting to shrink year by year. It is biologically active, responsive, plastic, influenced by what she does repeatedly. I explained that one of the most powerful exercise-related signals in the brain is a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of it as one of the brain's growth support signals. It helps neurons survive. It supports synaptic plasticity. It helps the brain adapt, learn, and maintain function. And one of the most reliable, non-drug ways to stimulate it is aerobic movement. Not punishment, not destruction, not collapse on the floor training. Rhythmic, sustained, moderate movement. Walking. When Margaret understood that, she stopped hearing exercise as lifestyle advice and started hearing it as a daily message to her brain. She began with 10 minutes, not 45, not an aspirational routine she would abandon. 10 minutes, every day, with enough pace to feel like she was actually doing something. Over time, that changed other things too. She started sleeping better, her daytime energy improved, her confidence improved, and most importantly, she became consistent. That word matters more than people realize, because the brain does not respond best to rare heroics. It responds to repeated signals. That brings us to the core of this entire script. The one move is brisk walking. Not casual wandering, not window shopping pace, brisk walking. A pace fast enough that you can still talk, but not sing comfortably. That matters because the goal is not movement for movement's sake. The goal is a moderate intensity aerobic signal. That signal influences several systems at once. It improves cerebral blood flow. It supports cardiovascular fitness, which matters because dementia is not only about plaques and tangles. A significant amount of cognitive decline is vascular. Small vessel disease, impaired blood flow, silent damage accumulating over years, all of that raises the burden on the brain. It improves insulin sensitivity, which matters because insulin signaling is important not just in muscle and liver, but in the brain as well. When metabolic health declines, neurons become less resilient. It helps regulate inflammation, which matters because chronic inflammation is not just bad for joints or the waistline, it is corrosive to brain tissue over time. And it supports the conditions under which memory-related brain regions function better. One of the most compelling findings in this area came from a randomized walking intervention in older adults, where regular walking was associated with an increase in hippocampal volume over time. Let that sink in. Walking was not just correlated with feeling healthier, it was associated with measurable structural benefit in a brain region central to memory. Now let's talk honestly about the 76% claim, because this is where a lot of health content goes off the rails. When you hear a number that dramatic, your guard should go up. That is good. Keep that instinct. The strongest headline-style numbers usually come from comparing very fit people to very unfit people in observational data. That kind of evidence is important, but it is not the same as proving that a 10-minute walk tomorrow guarantees a 76% reduction for you personally. What the evidence does support with far more confidence is this: higher long-term fitness is associated with substantially lower dementia risk. Improving from low fitness to better fitness is associated with meaningful benefit. And regular physical activity is one of the clearest modifiable behaviors we have for reducing risk over time. So why still talk about 10 minutes? Because 10 minutes is where behavior becomes real. People hear 150 minutes a week and mentally file it under probably should. People hear 10 minutes a day and realize they have no excuse. And the beautiful thing is that 10 minutes done daily is not trivial. It is a habit cue. It is a metabolic signal. It is a sleep primer. It is a circulation booster. It is an identity shift. It is the kind of small behavior that often becomes 12 minutes, then 18, then 25, without ever feeling like punishment. Now, I want to make this even more personal. If you are under 50, brisk walking is not just maintenance, it is investment. You are building reserve before decline becomes obvious. You are strengthening systems while they are still relatively adaptable. If you are between 50 and 70, this is the period where the payoff becomes especially important. Vascular changes accelerate, recovery gets slower, Sedentary habits start extracting a higher biological cost. Walking here is not theoretical protection. It is active opposition to the processes that push the brain toward decline. If you are over 70, the message is not, "It's too late." It is the opposite. It is that the threshold for benefit is still reachable. You do not need elite training. You do not need all-out exertion. You need regular, tolerable, sustainable movement. That is why brisk walking beats almost every fantasy routine people promise themselves and never keep. Here is the 10-minute protocol. Walk once a day for 10 minutes minimum. Make it brisk enough that your breathing changes. If you track heart rate, aim roughly for moderate intensity. If you do not track heart rate, use the talk test. Full conversation? Yes. Effortless singing? No. When possible, do it outside. Why? Because outdoor walking tends to stack benefits. You get light exposure, which can help circadian rhythm. You get sensory variation, which is more cognitively stimulating than staring at a wall or treadmill display. You get slight environmental unpredictability, which asks more of balance, coordination, and attention. And if you can do it in the morning, even better. Morning walks often improve alertness through the day and make sleep easier at night, which matters because deep sleep is one of the brain's best cleanup opportunities. If you are able, include a slight incline or a route with variation. If you are not, flat ground is perfectly fine. This is not about perfection, it is about repetition. Now let me tell you what 10 minutes a day will not do. It will not erase the damage of untreated sleep apnea. It will not fully override severe uncontrolled diabetes. It will not magically neutralize chronic heavy drinking, unmanaged hypertension, social isolation, hearing loss you refuse to address, or years of smoking-related vascular injury. A walk is powerful. It is not magic. But that honesty is exactly why it matters. Because when people stop expecting one habit to do everything, they are finally able to respect what that habit actually can do. Walking is a foundation habit, and foundation habits change more than one variable at a time. They improve compliance with better sleep. They improve willingness to do more. They improve mood, which improves follow-through. They create momentum, and momentum is one of the most underrated forces in preventive medicine. There is also something bigger here that I want you to hear clearly. The pharmaceutical world has spent staggering amounts of money trying to solve dementia late in the game, after pathology has been developing silently for years or decades. That is a brutally hard problem. Prevention is different. Prevention lives in the repeatable decisions you make before the crisis. And one of the most repeatable, low-cost, evidence-aligned decisions available to you is walking. Briskly, daily, for at least 10 minutes. Simple does not mean weak. Simple means scalable. Simple means most people can start tomorrow. Simple means this can still be true when motivation is low, when the weather is imperfect, when life gets busy, and when your brain tries to talk you out of doing the very thing that would help protect it. So here's the takeaway. If all you do after listening to this is start a 10-minute brisk walk every day, you have already moved yourself out of the category of people who merely consume health information and into the category of people who act on it. And that category matters. Because brain health is not protected by what you know. It is protected by what you repeat. Start tomorrow. Put on your shoes. Walk for 10 minutes. Walk briskly. Do it again the next day. Your future memory may be shaped less by one dramatic breakthrough and more by one ordinary behavior you were willing to take seriously. I'm Dr. Marcus Vance. Your health is your responsibility, not the pharmacy's, and I'll see you in the next video.